Thanks, Oireachtas Corla. I want to share time with 2 minutes for Deputy Kenny. Firstly, I want to welcome the opportunity to speak on this important motion. For decades, rural Ireland has been damaged by neglect, the neglect of successive governments, and that can be seen in the closure of banks, health centres, marts and many other important facilities across the country. Broadband still isn't available, and in many parts of the country, public transport is almost non-existent. And if you look at the Midlands region, for example, parts of that is in danger of becoming a rust belt through the complete lack of investment or serious job creation projects. And God knows how much longer must we wait for broadband. This has been a total mess, which the government and its predecessors made through the privatisation of AIR and the current botched procurement project. And this now needs to be addressed. We're here now in the midst of the severe crisis within the beef sector and the threat of family farms facing closure across Ireland. Your party, Minister, has been here for 8 years, but rural Ireland has never felt so much under pressure and isolated. I want to thank the Rural Independent Group for putting forward this motion here tonight, and I believe that fairly accurately reflects what's happening. We have submitted an amendment to the motion, and I would hope that the Independent Group, and indeed others in this House, would accept that. It's about transparency in pricing. I want to formally move the amendment, Lascan Corley. Thank you. We've had a talk here in the last 20 minutes about transparency. Here's an opportunity for parties across the House to support that. A major issue right now in the sector is the complete lack of trust between the processors and the farmers, and we need to deal with this. Our amendment is an attempt, a serious attempt, to try and deal with this issue. There are some things like the base price that we can't legislate and set, but the factories have a role to play here in setting a fair beef price. And the deal that was agreed, while it mightn't be perfect, it does represent progress and does need to be built on, but it does depend on having a fair base price. We need to underpin the whole transparency issue with legislation such as the bill we are putting forward, and it provides for that, so as there is transparency between the processor and the primary producer. Right now, you have a small group of powerful cartel-like processors, and they have taken advantage of the system and taken advantage of farmers, and farmers have been denied basic information. Our amendment calls on the government to establish a beef observatory, which would require processors to publish daily reports. This is something which I raised with you, Minister, and with the Senior Minister here last week, and I know that you said you would consider it, and I hope you will do that. So I would like, maybe when you come back in later on in the debate tonight, that you might just come back in on that. We understand that this isn't a silver bullet, and it certainly won't meet everyone's demands, but it will go some way to ending the manipulation of prices and towards building the vital trust that's needed there. It would also address a lot of the key issues in the sector. Secondly, I would like to support the call made in the original motion for a commitment to introduce a framework for producer organisations in the beef sector. Time will tell whether the POs are the answer. Some farmers are divided on it. Some farmers have told me that they won't work, but I think we must give them a chance. I've never seen a situation where combination has been a bad thing. There is always strength in numbers, whether it's workers or farmers or indeed any other group. We currently have the Independent Farmers of Ireland PO, and I've also learned that we soon have the Beef Farmers of Ireland producer organisation. So it's important that we find a way to allow farmers to negotiate on a level playing field with the processors, and the PO provides an opportunity for small and medium-sized farmers to come together and do that, and to fight on a collective basis. What we need from you, Minister, and the Department is for the relevant technical support and legislation to be put in place that these farmers are given the best opportunity possible to make the system work and to build on the deal that's been negotiated. Briefly, I want to touch on CAP. Previously, we had a system where farm payments were based on historical entitlements, which only served to preserve inequality, where some farmers receive far more per hectare than others. We have farmers receiving huge variations in terms of what they receive in payments, and we need to address that. And that's why Sinn Féin has long supported an upper limit of 60,000 per annum on basic payments, with farmers having the option to top up their payments through participation in schemes such as environmental schemes. And this would allow for front-loaded payments to develop small and medium-sized farms that would offer additional supports proportionally for those smaller and medium-sized farms. And it would also reward farmers for good environmental practices and build on some of the existing schemes. I have to say that it's disappointing that the Government and Fine Gael continue to advocate direct payments are capped at 100,000 per year, with loopholes that will allow payments above that limit. And we know that some of the beef processing factories are actually claiming those benefits. That's deeply unjust. Lastly, I want to highlight the fact that we need to be thinking of new income streams for farmers and create new income streams in rural Ireland. And there's a huge opportunity out there that we need to be developing in terms of renewable energy, biogas, biomass, and in the Midlands, Minister, and I know you have a special interest in forestry, there's a huge opportunity that we need to grab with both hands. Portlamona is going to implement, there are actually importing biomass from South America. You know, all around those power stations, whether it's the West Offaly one, the Eden-Derry one, or Lanesborough, there's land that can be used to grow biomass. There's straw in fields. There's a surplus of straw this year. The second best fuel to coal to be used in biomass. There's huge opportunities there in the forestry sector, and I would like the Government to try and address that and take it seriously. There's opportunities in solar, small-scale wind for farmers, and in some cases hydro. But we must all accept as well that Portlamona will be moving away from peat production. That has to happen in a sustainable and fair way, and we need to have a fair transition and a just transition. The biomass supply chains have the potential to replace peat as a fuel for the 3 stations in the Midlands. Hundreds of new jobs can be created in the Midlands with renewable energy, and we need to give this a serious focus. And I've brought forward several policy papers and bills on this. We also have a large agricultural sector, which we have an abundance of slurry waste and other crop waste and animal waste. That can be used to produce biogas, which is a renewable source. Germany has 6,000 biogas plants. England has 600. We have only one feeding into the grid. That's Billy Costello's down in Nurney. So we need the Government to start thinking about the future of rural Ireland and to really seriously start thinking about other income streams for farmers. We're going to move away from a situation, and farmers and government and all of us, opposition and government, are going to start thinking about creating new income streams. It will no longer be sustainable going out into the future to compete with other countries where farmers have a number of incomes coming in from their farm that are not just dependent on beef or dairy. They also have supplementary incomes from energy and other sources. So we don't want the Government to be commentators. We shouldn't be commentators. We all have to be active around this and create new jobs and new sources of energy. And in the short term, I would just urge again for the Government to do their part to make sure that the deal agreed between the beef producers and the farmers, that deal is built on and implemented in full, and that we can ensure the future of beef farming in this country. Thank you.